Turn off the.
It did until I got an oil leak and they skid steer and cut down. And coming on Friday, so yeah, the run go tomorrow and then come back and try to get you.
Call this meeting to order. Would everyone please join me in the pledge? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. please.
Davis.
Here.
Councilman Hexley.
Here.
Councilman Cordes.
Here.
Councilman Bell Marcus.
Here.
Councilman Green.
Here.
Has everybody had a chance to look over the agenda? Are there any additions or changes to the agenda? Seeing none, do I have a motion to go ahead and approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll move on to the June 3rd meeting. Everybody had a chance to review the minutes? Is there any questions, discussion? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the June 3rd, 2025 council meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the June 3rd meeting, wasn't it? Yeah.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We'll move on to the approval of the bills. We have deposits in the amount of $251,688.63. Accounts payable in the amount of $229,652.31. Transmittals in the amount of $55,152.01. And payroll in the amount of $50,575.21. Any questions? Do I have a motion to approve the bills?
I'll make a motion to approve the bills.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We'll move on to correspondence. Okay. Move on to items from the public, and the first thing we have is a special event permit that went to the farmer's market with Marie Christensen. We gave her a two-time trial period, and then we'll make our final decision. So
we had 2 weeks of the farmer's market and I thought it went really well. We had 1 food truck each time. And I walked around it. I found it easy to get around. And so, I mean, I don't know if there's any issues, but it went really, really well.
Yeah, there's only been one food truck, both times. Last weekend I wasn't in town, so Lieutenant Morris made several drive-bys of it for me. He did say the first weekend, both of us did notice, there even with just the one food truck, there was still some people spilling out into the street. But, it hasn't seemed overly busy down there. And I did talk to some other food trucks today and in the past, obviously they're actually not going, so they just worry about getting back in there and parked over there.
Mhm.
There's been some complaints from them about the location, and then there's been, not brought to me, but I've heard from other people, that people have complained that it's just too small, they feel, over there being in Hack Creek Park and then along the sidewalk there. Is the only things, is what I've heard. I
Yeah, we
haven't
just
noticed
had-
any problems yet, but
Yeah, we just had the two markets. The first one, Brush Creek was there.
Right.
They were able to sell out in like an hour and a half. And then the second one was fairly small. Several people canceled last minute. They had other things going on because it was Father's Day weekend. But from the vendors that I spoke to that went to the market, they all enjoyed it. People that went to the market that came inside, because I was busy inside, they thanked me for putting it on. But that's all I've heard so far.
Go ahead, Mike.
It just doesn't seem like there's enough room there, Marie. It's spilling out on too much on the sidewalk when there's been really very few vendors there. Or, folks selling stuff. When we get all of them, like what, there's 20, 25 of them sometimes. And there's not room there for all of that. And besides that, it's the ambulance run. And also if there's a funeral at the Catholic or Presbyterian church, the funeral procession comes down that street, and that wouldn't look very good. It didn't look to me like he was working very well. And a lot of the people that come there, there's not room for them. It's not really fair to them. The other people who sell stuff.
So the first market I had, I want to say 8 vendors, and then the second market, 10 vendors. And so there was only one vendor that I thought might have spilled onto the sidewalk, and that was the lemonade one. But if that's the issue, we could always move them. But if it's an issue in the park at all, I mean, it just seemed like it went really well from people that were shopping. They enjoyed it.
And that park is really small. I mean, like I say, there's a lot of people coming out. You've been out here to these and you've seen them, and there's a lot of people selling stuff. There was no one there, the ladies with the jellies, didn't see them. Other ladies with baked goods, the lady that makes the nice hand-built quilts and things like that, they're just.
I put out the market for people to come join. If they don't want to join, then that's okay too.
Well, I think that they think probably there's not enough room. There's not enough room there's not.
But I have room in front of the mural, but because we didn't have enough vendors, I didn't put them in front of there. So, I mean, it's up to you guys. I mean,
Yeah.
from what I've heard, it was successful. I didn't think it was bad at all, although the lemonade stand I could move if that was an issue. But I mean, again, it's totally up to you.
I think what Mike was referring to spilling over into the sidewalk was crowded.
Yeah.
Had so many people on it. And that's the only thing I noticed. It looked like there wasn't a lot of room to walk. I did hear one complaint that it was another business felt that we were taking parking away from them. Okay. I'm not gonna mention any names and everything, but that was one complaint that was the only complaint I heard. So,
But if the parking is in front of my business and it was only one food truck, I mean,
yeah, but you had more than that petitioned off, didn't you?
but once that food truck is parked, I remove all the cones, then all the parking is available. I only petition off the area in front of my shops.
But you guys also kind of share parking, don't you? I mean, people park across the street from your business and walk across and,
People shop in the market also.
it's just going to get worse this summer and on Saturdays especially.
Hey, that's just.
No, it's fine. If this is your choice.
They had
it's fine
two
too.
restaurant owners complain to me about the food trucks. Because they pay, they bought their land, they bought their business, they pay taxes, they pay water, sewer, and food trucks don't.
And I fully understand that because I pay the same things. I understand that there is competition and some of them may not like the competition.
Yeah, it's competition, not on the same scale as what they were.
Right.
Yeah.
But I also feel like competition also brings the best out of all the businesses. And so that's where you'll get better prices, better items, more people showing up for the people shopping for the public, basically. So again,
That was the only complaint.
Yeah.
What
I really think, I think it'd be better put someplace else, Maria, hate to do it, but it worked good out here. There was just a lot more room. And as far as the Sophia's land she sold over here, I don't know if anyone's even asked the buyer of that if they can use that till something's done with it, you know, that's possible that they can use that too, but we block off the street. Everything, you have the whole street and the whole parking lot out here. It's just,
right. But the market I'm putting on is not prohibiting anybody else from putting on a market here at Town Hall or even on Sundays. If they want to do that, then that's fine too. I have no issue with that. I was just trying to put a market because I have the bake shop open now and then just trying to get more business to the downtown area on Saturdays.
I wouldn't tell you what to do with your property there in the little park, you know, but as far as the sidewalks and the street and all that, I just don't see it working out. No, that's just my thoughts on it.
Any other comments? Any comments from the public? So what's the council so choose to do?
I say that we don't give this permit.
You want to put that in a form of a
I'd
motion?
make a motion that we don't give this permit for the farmer's market at Marie's.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll have to move it. You want to continue with it? In this parking lot?
No, because I organized it, because I had a whole map put out, vendor spots and such, and so not necessarily. If it was the issue of the public area with the sidewalks, I understand. I mean, does this mean also that I can't use my own property?
No,
No, you can use your own property.
that's what I just said. You
Right.
wouldn't have a problem with you using your little park there,
Sure.
Okay,
but try to,
And as far as I don't think if you just, I don't really, if it's on your property, you can open up stuff for outside. I mean, I do believe without going through a special permit or a events permit.
well, but technically in the past, we've also made people get special events permits for their property.
Well,
i.e.
is that what you're gonna continue to have the special events for that, for your property?
It's just for my property, yes.
Okay, okay. Just on your property, then we would have to pass it again, just for her property.
just for her
That's what the council so chooses,
I wouldn't have a problem with that. Just
as long as it remains on her property.
remains on your property.
Could someone put that form of a motion?
I'd make a motion that as long as it stays on her property, that it's fine. That we'd give her a permit for that.
Farmer's market.
Yeah.
Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we do that? Okay,
And let me make kind of a preemptive strike thing here. I'm sure somewhere down the line, it'll probably come up about, well, Coyote Sports does it and everything. Well, they do it for one day or 1 week. They might do it on Friday and Saturday and I think another business or two, but that's for one time. It's not every weekend all summer. You know, I hope you understand that.
Yep. I understand.
Okay.
Thank you.
thanks, Marie. Okay. We get that straight for the record. That Marie has a farmer's market permit for her property. That's every Saturday through the summer. Okay. Okay, we'll move on to the community garden. And we have a representative here, Miss Dawn Monroe.
Dawn Monroe, yes. Hi, I'm very happy to tell you about the community garden. It is on town land. We're very aware of that, and it's appropriate that we come in once a year and tell you what's going on in there. So, first of all, I'll mention it is on Cypress Street and South River.
Mhm.
There is a fence around it with a banner that you can recognize as you go by. The garden has actually been there since 2011, so 14 years. And it was started with 2 USDA grants in the beginning. That was the start. If you would enter the gate of the garden, what you would see 14 personal garden beds that are just about the size of a normal single bed, and they're built up off the ground. Then you would see 12 very large common garden beds that are maintained by and for all the members, and they're about 10 by 18 feet and higher off the ground, actually. We also have an orchard of fruit trees, raspberries, apples, plums, and cherries. And if you were to go in right now, you would see that many of the plants have been planted within the last 2 weeks, and they're just popping up. They're about this tall. It's very pretty, really. So some of the plants we're growing in there are about 20 kinds, I'm sure, but some of them are carrots, cabbage greens, potatoes, and squash, plus a lot of other things too. It's all organic. There is no insecticide or herbicide involved. The beds are watered, and we've just perfected this year. We've been working about 3 years on it. The beds are watered on an irrigation drip system. And that system is also on timers. So they will come on at certain times of the day, once or twice a day, at a certain time, say 6:30 in the morning is one of the typical ones that we use. We have a lot of volunteers to keep going. We have 28 people, and what they do is they have their own beds to produce their own food or flowers, but they also are involved in planting and weeding and in the maintenance of the garden. One thing I want to talk about for sure is outreach and things that affect the community. Our best ambassadors are our bees. We have one hive, and we plant a great number of native plants that the insects and bees prefer to use. These bees will travel up to 3 miles away from the hive. And so they get out into the agriculture areas, into people's personal vegetable gardens and flowers. And let's see here. Oh, and the local honey industry. We have at least 3 people we know of who are raising bees just for the purpose of having honey and in particular selling honey. So that's kind of like a local industry on a small scale. There are also 2 more pollinator beds to encourage the bees, and they are on property at the Oddfellows Park down there. It's maintained by our people, planted and maintained. And then there's another one by the hot pool up on that green knoll by the hot pool to encourage more pollinators to be in town to help out with the agriculture that's in town. So okay, so that's one part of our outreach, our bees. Then we do have kindergartners visit every year, and they're all excited about pollination, bees, and they're especially very interested in worms. So they have a good time. We do have a worm structure there. And of course, then there are the worms that actually grow in the soil that are very important for enriching the soil. So they love those. They get to handle them and stuff. This year, I should mention that the amount of crops we get is quite variable. We have had years where there was barely enough, where each member had couple vegetables a week, a poor year. We have had times when we had excess food and herbs. Herbs are something else we grow. And for a while, we were taking that up to the farmer's market that was in the pavilion. And then we just asked a donation from the people. We didn't actually sell it. So what's new this year is really great. We have joined the Wyoming Hunger Initiative. And what that consists of, as we actually weigh the giveaway food for records, for their records. And then that food is delivered to the senior center at lunchtime, so the seniors can take this excess food home and eat it. The big event of the year is the Pesto Festo. If you've not been, it's a beautiful dinner under sparkling lights right at sunset on the last Saturday of August, which is the 30th of this year. That people do buy tickets for it, and we do sell out every year. We are allowed to have 50 people, and we have 50 people. So this is our fundraiser and our publicity event. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we are self-sustaining. The Pesto Festo brings in approximately $2,000. Plus, we have money from memberships. We have two kinds of members, the ones who have their own garden bed in there, and we have the associates like me that don't have their own, but they come in and work and weed and water and do all those things. So we get a portion, we're allowed to have the harvest also. So Pesto Festo and membership fees, it's not a huge budget, but with that, we are able to purchase the seeds, the plants, and do all the maintenance of the garden. So we hope you come to Pesto Festo, and we also would love to have any of you come in the garden gate whenever you like and walk around and see the garden.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. One of the reasons that we didn't, this is a new council. We had no idea who was on the board. You know, I was reading through the ordinance one day and how they're supposed to report occasionally to us and let us know what's going on. And we didn't even know. I didn't realize all this was going on.
Yeah, it's a very active thing.
And do you have all the garden spots full?
Yes, I think we had maybe 16, and we had about 14 who wanted their own plots. So what we did was we planted the extra 2 ones with extra vegetables.
Oh, I see.
So we utilize them all.
That's great. Well, that's great, and it's great that you're giving to the people.
Yeah, we try as best as we can. It's sometimes difficult to find ways to do it, but that is part of our mission, of course, and being a 501c3, we do have an educational and community mission to do that.
Well, great. Does anybody have any questions? Well, thank you very much for coming. It's greatly appreciated. Now everyone knows what's going on. Hopefully we'll get a little advertisement in the newspaper.
Well, good. Yes, thank you for making us known that we could come in and do a little bit.
Yeah, once or twice a year would be great.
More outreach with you. That
I mean, you're welcome to come every meeting.
Oh, of course. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on. Are there any council comments? Okay, reports from departments, town hall.
We have a final reading of ordinance 80.
Budget.
Okay. Ordinance 883, an ordinance to provide income necessary to finance the 25-26 fiscal budget of the town of Saratoga, Carbon County, state of Wyoming. Be it ordained by the governing body of the town of Saratoga, Carbon County, Wyoming. Section 1, the amount of general revenue necessary to be raised for municipal purposes and to meet current expenditures of the town of Saratoga, Carbon County, state of Wyoming during the fiscal year July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2026 is hereby fixed at the suitable levy on the town of Saratoga assessed valuation. Section 2, that the general fund of said town there be levied a suitable tax of 8 mills on the real and personal property in the town of Saratoga, subject to taxation for the purpose of raising the sum of a portion of the appropriation, which includes other anticipated revenues, charges, and incomes for operation and maintenance of the general fund. Section 3, general fund anticipated revenues and income. Anticipated revenues, taxes, 2,116,950.38. Licenses and permits, 112,550. Intergovernmental revenue, 439,296. Charges for service, 57,000. Fines and forfeitures, 20,000. Miscellaneous revenues, 1,890,200. Contributions and transfers, 426,917.19. Total anticipated general fund revenues, 5,062,913.57. Section 4, that for the enterprise funds of said town, the following sums of money is hereby appropriated to defray the expenses from the general fund for the appropriation of the total of the enterprise funds for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025 and ending June 30th, 2026. Anticipated revenues, impact fund, we have 700,000. The airport fund, we have 470,020. The water fund, 863,023.57. Sewer fund, 2,995,325.56. Weed and pest is 205,526. Specific purpose tax, 2,025,000. Total anticipated enterprise revenues is 7,258,813. Section 5, anticipated expenses and disbursements of the general fund. Anticipated expenditures, town hall administration, total of 320,221. Salaries and benefits, 172,500. General expenses, 147,721. For planning, we have $92,244.90, which includes salary and benefits, $51,241.90. General expenses, $41,003. Municipal court, $49,403. Salaries, payroll, benefits, $23,500. $25,903. For the police department, we have $1,007,212. Salaries and payroll benefits, 700 to 3,500. General expenses, 393,712. Volunteer fire department, 76,157. Payroll benefits, 11,700. General expenses, 64,457. Streets department, 2,157,903. Salaries and payroll, 389,200. General expenses, 1,768,703. The swimming pool, 126,313.57. Salaries and payroll, 70,263.79. General expenses, 56,009.78. The hot pool, 97,853. Salaries and payroll, 19,000. General expenses, 78,853. Saratoga Lake, 30,953. General expenses is 30,953. Parks, 519,049.78. General expenses, $519,049.78. Recreation Department, $239,443.32. With salaries and payroll, $177,500. General expenses, $61,943.32. Community Center, we have $256,160. Salaries, payroll, $191,160. General expenses, $65,000. Total anticipated expenditures of the general fund, $5,062,913.57. Total excess revenues above expenditures of the general fund is zero. Section 6, anticipated expenses and disbursements of enterprise funds. Anticipated expenditures. Impact funds is $700,000. That's broke down. The Rock Creek Impact Assistance is $20,000. Transfer from reserves from Trans West is $570,000. Gateway West interest income is $50,000. Trans West interest income is $60,000. The airport fund is $470,020. Salaries and benefits, $6,720. General expenses, $188,300. Capital projects, $275,000. Water fund, $863,023.57. Salaries and payroll, $278,535. General expenses, $554,488.57. Transfers to reserves, $30,000. Sewer fund, $2,995,325.56. Salaries and payroll, $278,535. General expenses, $2,716,790.56. Weed and pest, $205,526. Weed salaries and payroll benefits, $17,250. Pest salaries, $7,945. Weed control expenses, $82,003. Pest control expenses, $98,328. Specific purpose tax, $2,025,000. Capital projects, $2,025,000. Total anticipated enterprise expenditures is $7,258,895.13. Total excess revenues above expenditures of the enterprise fund is zero. Section 7, the mayor of the town of Saratoga and the town clerk are hereby authorized and instructed to certify this ordinance and to make application to the Board of County Commissioners of Carbon County, Wyoming for suitable levy to provide the town of Saratoga with monies for general purposes, provided, however, that said levy shall not be in excess of 8 mils on the dollar. The end.
Okay. Now open for discussion. Any discussion? Any question?
No.
Okay. Take a motion. Pass the 25-26 budget.
I'll make a motion to pass the 25-26 budget.
I have a second to that motion.
I'll second it.
Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah, you have your new budget.
Here we are, guys. This is
Is that a question? Okay. Hearing no questions, we'll move on. You gotta find my. Okay. Anything else under town hall? Okay, we'll move on to the police department.
Mr. Mayor, council. The past 2 weeks since our last council meeting, our call volume's picked up quite a bit. We've had 250 law calls in the last 2 weeks. A lot of that has been due to just increased traffic. We did have three nuisance ordinance violations. We have issued citations. We have more follow-up coming up this week for additional citations if the stuff hasn't been cleaned up. We follow up from a couple meetings ago. I was tasked with doing some checking on the First and Bridge Street stuff with YDOT. Emery and I met with them probably 3 weeks ago now, with engineers for our district from YDOT. One of the questions was on traffic surveys through there. And correct me if I'm wrong, the way I understood is they actually go out and do a count on that intersection every 3 years, correct?
Turn counts.
Yeah. So we've got, in that data is pedestrian and vehicle turning through that intersection. They sent us that. I kind of looked at it. It's kind of like reading 80 stereo instructions to me. It's not very clear what all the data means in some of the boxes, but we do have that, giving at least a general idea of the busiest hours, traffic flows. As for dealing with some of the issues over there, they pretty much guarantee we're not gonna get a traffic light. We don't have enough traffic to deal with that, and it'd cause more issues than good. We are on the plan for, was it 2029?
Right.
They're gonna be doing a paving project through here, and at that point, they're planning on doing some adjustments to the flow and some, what'd you call them, curb outs?
Yeah, the pedestrian bulb outs, so they can
Bulb outs.
have a little bit better visibility before you cross the street.
Yeah, which would actually bring the pedestrians more out into view of you can see them pass the parked vehicles that way when they're waiting to cross.
This is YDOT's plan?
Correct.
Well, yeah, we visited during the stamp. Correct. But when we visited with YDOT, that was. They were involved in that, okay. That's something that they would actually pay for those also, if we did those during that time. Is there, well, the curb.
See, and I don't feel like pedestrian visibility is near as bad as you have to pull. And when you're driving on the street, especially entering First Street from Bridge, either direction, you have to pull clear out on the crosswalk to be able to see incoming traffic. So now you're parked on the crosswalk to see, you know.
And we have the same issue on Main, trying to look around Peruse to the south. You have to pull out past the crosswalk area there.
And that's what these pop outs will do. That'll give you more room to pull out.
I thought it was for the pedestrians.
It'll bring the whole intersection further out.
Crosswalk out.
Yeah, it takes the crosswalk out, so you'll be able to park in the old crosswalk and look.
And all these older towns are this way.
Yep.
Colorado, everywhere.
Yeah, where it's the older buildings, there was no setbacks on the dirt roads, and
Yeah.
of course, the buildings couldn't move, so we've expanded to the max we can and still having that space. And then for the parking side of that, they do not care what we do for removing parking along First Street / Highway 13230. We can get rid of any parking we want. We can limit the parking, restrict the parking. The only thing they said is our parking areas have to be a certain distance set back from the intersection.
Right. Which they already are, but if we wanted to take them back 7 more feet or something, we could. They had nothing against that. Okay.
That'd be completely up to the town.
Already taken back clear to where there's just one spot in front of the wolf.
Right.
So
Which is fine unless it's a pickup with a snowmobile enclosed trailer or something like that, and you still can't see.
you can't have a trailer on. It's not long enough.
You're not supposed to.
Yeah.
That is something else I'm working on, is parking violations citations with our town attorney. Working on that because as town ordinances now, we really have nothing for parking regulations.
Okay.
So those are being worked on for the future. I think that's all I had on that. Now,
You, make sure we get that. Make copies so people can read some of the surveys that,
Yeah.
you know, that a traffic light is not gonna go down here. We don't have the population. This is per.
that was just verbal talking with them, but we can print out copies of the
Yeah,
turn and pedestrian.
yeah, just so people can read them.
When was the last time they did a study?
I think it was 2 years. I think it's not this year, but next year we'll get another count.
Do they do it every 3, you said? Cause it seems like it's changed a lot since like
Yeah.
2020.
We just have that same
thing that every small community has, and we have what we perceive as traffic compared to MUTCD standards, like in Fort Collins, and so by engineering standards, we are pretty slow.
We have no traffic.
As we know, and I am learning that on Saturday afternoon, we'll aggravated pretty quick.
Do they average it out for the year? Is that how they?
No, it's just basically per time of day.
Oh,
They basically have someone just sits there for several hours and physically counts the traffic coming through the intersection.
When they do their study, that can change significantly.
And then
Right. And they chose, it's a Saturday they do it on, isn't it? Isn't that what he said?
But I mean, the
Yeah.
time of year.
Right.
Yeah, there's, I want to say that one. Beginning of June-ish.
Yeah, and so it was June, July, somewhere in there.
Yeah, he said they do try to come every year during like toga days or in the summer, because it's, you know,
Somewhat busy.
middle of winters.
But we did discuss some of the other pedestrian warning options.
Yeah, they were gonna look into their design standards for that. They said, you know, the city of Laramie has them all over. There wasn't really anything that they were like, hey, this is a.
End all be all answer. Yeah.
You know, the increased plane of view is 2029 is probably the best that. We have to be very careful putting too much false security at that intersection. Like pedestrians need to know that there is a risk so they can act like there is a risk. You know, if we put stuff there that only gets used intermittently, somebody forgets to push a button and somebody does, somebody's not used to it. It's
Correct.
You have other side of that, you have drivers, if the light's not flashing, they don't think they have to worry about anything if you have the active pedestrian warnings. And so those can end up causing more problems than they help.
Okay.
So they just gave us a lot of stuff to think about and gave us options.
Thanks for getting that done for us.
No problem.
And when you can, see what you can get in writing so we can put it out for people to read if they're so interested. Okay,
Can do that.
all right, thanks, sir.
And then my actual agenda item is a quote from Pine Cove Consulting. This one is for $2,021.98. What this would be doing is replacing the camera that's up in the front entryway of Town Hall. It's the only camera we have left is on just the old DVR system. And this would be a camera that'll actually put it onto our system that matches. Well, I can watch everything at the airport, the hot pools, police department. It'd all be on that same system recorded so that we don't have just the live DVR view, because that one's actually not even recorded anymore. And so what that ends up being is it's $911.24 for the camera. Being a computerized product now, it pays $683.24 for the licensing of it for 10 years. Shipping and handling is $21.25, and it's $406.25 for Derek from Pine Cove, our IT guy, just to do the installation. Actual installing crew.
You know, if the council, some of the council might remember, we've talked about this in the past, about replacing that a while back, a long time ago, shortly after we were elected. And I think it needs to be done. I don't think, my feelings are is the whole burden shouldn't be on the police department. I would say this bill needs to be split between the town hall and the police department because it's for their safety up there also, you know. That's just a thought, open for discussion.
And if we do wish to do it that way, I spoke to Karina and Town Hall and myself, both have the money to cover it in our building grounds and maintenance. Here to count as assets to camera upgrade.
What's the life expectancy on these products that we've been buying? Like this camera,
We've been using them. Shoot, I don't know how long, 5-6 years now.
is a 10-year license? Will the camera last 10 years?
Yes, especially being the indoor camera for sure. Because we've had the one up on the pole out in the elements at the hot pool now for at least 5 years. And it's still going strong.
What about the ones over here in front of your PD?
The one on the west side of this building and the east side of the building, there's no issues.
They were all about the same time?
Yeah, I think the hot pool, these two. And actually the one in here were all installed at the same time.
Makes sense to have them all in the same system.
Yeah,
Would this be the last camera that we'd need to have everything on the same system then?
we're replacing all the original stuff. Yes, there's some upgrades I want to do in the future with swapping around some cameras, but that's further down the road.
Swapping around or buying new.
Well, I'd like to replace the one because we have just a single camera right now looking down at the hot pool. I'd like to put in one of the quad sensors, which is up at the airport. It's actually one camera that gives you 4 different views. So eventually I'd like to get that one. It would look down at the hot pool, look over at the river access from the hot pool, look back at the north walkway, which we don't have any video camera of, and it would also give us camera area of the pool itself. So we can see if anyone's getting in there after hours or anything like that. And I'd like to keep the camera that's currently on that pole. And I was looking at it today, I'm not sure how it'll work. It's probably gonna be, I'll have to figure that out later, but move it over to the east wall of the changing rooms, looking at the not so hot pool, because where that one's located, the current camera doesn't give a great view of the not so hot pool. And so that'd be a camera for the view over there.
Well, we can discuss that later.
Yeah, that's on down the road.
Anyway, on this camera, does council want to go ahead and approve it?
Yeah, I'd make a motion to approve it for $2,021.98.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
All right, that's everything I had. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
on the fire department, they didn't give me an update on any calls or anything, but they come in with, they're ordering small tools and they want to get them from Shively's to outfit their ladder truck. The small tools and everything come to $682.42. So I'm asking the council to go ahead and approve this.
I'd make the motion to approve this.
Have a motion to approve the $682.42. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We'll move on to the recreation department.
Evening, gentlemen.
Howdy.
I don't have anything super important, just kind of want to give you an update on what's going on at the rec department. So swimming pool, as you know, is open. It's been super busy. Our swimming lessons have started. They're going extremely well. Heard nothing but positive things. Recreation wise, adult co-ed softball registration is open. It'll be open until July 7th. Yeah, that's pretty much the short and skinny of it.
Things slowed down over here at the rec or at the gym. Everything slowed down since the pool's open.
Not really. You know, I still have, there's a lot of fitness classes going on. There's, I think we have like 7 of them now. Pickleball's still there pretty frequently. And then, of course, our open gym is always busy.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Baseball going okay?
All's going great.
All right. Well, thanks, Carter.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Carter.
Okay, we'll move on to Department of Public Works.
Counselors, good evening.
Evening.
I'm good. It's Rockford. I'm good. So starting off, I handed out the water and sewer ordinances a couple meetings ago. Whoever's had a chance to look over them. If you have any questions about them, any comments, any suggested changes, if we could go over that and work through those and then possibly do a reading, possibly table it. But I'd like to take another step forward with this. Anybody has anything?
I don't.
I would say we ought to move forward with the first reading of this.
That's 884.
Pardon?
Is that 884?
Yep. I will say the Joint Powers Board and Emory put a lot of work into this. I've sat through quite a bit of it, not all of it. And kind of streamlining, making things easier.
Try to clarify a lot of stuff. We added some diagrams, just
kind of based off a lot of questions that we would get, people in where there was kind of a gray area where we weren't sure. We wanted to clean those things up.
And it was, there were places in there it was difficult to understand.
Well, there was answers in there, but a lot of them were scattered throughout code. So sewer format matches the water format. I think it's a good product.
So if you'd read it by title, vote the same, well, continue, yes, please.
Town of Saratoga ordinance number 884, an ordinance amending Title 13, Division 1, Water, an ordinance amending the regulations and procedures governing the operation of the town's water infrastructure. The amended aspects of this enterprise fund include but are not limited to the daily operation, maintenance, construction, billing, and fees. This ordinance repeals and replaces Title 13, Division 1, Water in full and provides more effective date.
You want to hold that?
Yes.
We need to pass each one independently.
Yes.
Do I have a motion to approve town ordinance 884 on its first reading?
I'll make the motion to pass ordinance 884 on its first reading.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second pass to approve ordinance number 884 on its first reading. Any more discussion?
One quick question I have. On this out of town tap fee that you have in the schedule,
Yes.
what would that pertain to? I mean, I was under the understanding you had to be in the town limits to get a,
So we do have a few people on the water line who are hooked up, Rodney, and then there's the game office out there who are out of town limits who are hooked up. I would hope this is really rare.
I was just curious if that's something that we're looking to add.
I know it's in there basically based off things that were historically in there. I would like to tread very lightly doing that, because once you really no other way to bring people into your town limits, there's no incentive at that point for people to go, hey, we want to be annexed in. So you kind of lock your boundaries as soon as you throw your utilities outside of them. No, I have no intentions.
Okay, I was just curious about that.
Additional discussion? Discussion? Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. 885, please.
Town of Saratoga ordinance number 885, an ordinance Title 13, Division 2, the regulations and procedures governing the operation of the town sewer infrastructure. The amended aspects of this enterprise fund include but are not limited to the daily operation, maintenance, construction, billing, and fees. This ordinance repeals and replaces Title 13, Division 2, sewer in full and provides for an effective date.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve ordinance number 885 on its first reading?
I'll make the motion to approve ordinance 885 on its first reading.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion? Okay, we have a motion on the table to approve ordinance number 885 with a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Couple things on the public works side. We are over there on Elm Street getting ready to do the tie-in for that big intersection over there. It was a little bit different than we thought. We dug it up and it is old and it is worn out. There's clamps and dressels falling off the pipe. We had a couple of dressels or both coupler on there. There was 2 bolts left and out of 8 of them. So hopefully in the future we can start moving away on those other lines and getting them replaced too. They're in pretty rough shape. So we got that. Curb guys are gonna be over at the park on Monday is the plan. They were gonna be here tomorrow. We had a sidewalk chase drainage didn't show up on time, so they're down a little bit. Got taken care of. We are painting around town, do some more mowing. We kind of cleaned up as we come up on the 4th of July. Spend a little time doing some beautification use that word. The mural over there on the side of the bridge, you guys got a little bit left to do and he's about done. I was pretty impressed with what that guy was able to do.
Yeah.
And quickly. That was pretty cool. Sorry, I think that's a nice addition. They're kind of the big ticket items. You guys have any questions?
Nope. Looks good. Yeah, good job. You guys are doing great.
We're, like I said, we're having some stress with the pickup broom. So you see a little gravel on the streets and stuff. We have to figure out something else for the rest of the summer. Everything we do to just throwing gravel all over the place. So probably we'll see a little bit on the streets. We'll get what swept off what we can, but I won't see that thing out much.
Are you saying it needs to be retired?
The symptoms are there. Yeah. Well, it's just frustrating when you're trying to sweep something up and then, it's like when you're sweeping up at your house and your kids walk through your pile in your kitchen.
Yeah.
It's kind of what we're dealing with. It's getting a little frustrating, but we can make do.
Thank you.
Planning Commission. So we did have a variance application that we had a public hearing for this last meeting, but the prior meeting, the applicant turned in signatures and we had a recommendation made by the Planning Commission to deny the variance based on the fact that it didn't meet the criteria listed out in the ordinance. I know, these are the kind of getting ran as the historical narrative goes around here. The Planning Commission did do a thorough and what I felt was a pretty good job. I know anytime we try to move kind of in a different direction, to make things a little bit more clear going forward, there's always applications and things that get caught in the crossfire. So I do know this can be extremely frustrating. I do hope as we move forward with these zoning changes, we're looking at all these applications like this that we're getting and seeing things that are coming up in the past. I think hopefully we can find some that these will even be beneficial to this applicant if those go through. So rests with you at the final decision. It was a unanimous vote with 7 out of 7. So it wasn't a split vote or anything like that. Eric is our contractor. He is here. The applicant, John, I believe he's on the phone if he can hear us.
Yes, I can.
So, guys have any questions?
Corey, do you want to add to that any?
I was at the meeting, it was unanimous. They went through due diligence on the criteria and found that it didn't meet it, so they denied it. So I make a motion to go with their recommendation. Denied variance.
Did it meet any of the criteria?
They figured 4 out of 8.
Yeah.
They came up with. And those criteria, they're pretty common. I mean, nationwide. There is the kind of 2 that I would say are a little bit heavier. That's the extraordinary circumstance and the hardship. And they didn't determine that there was a hardship or an extraordinary circumstance.
We have a motion on the table. Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, let's go into discussion. You want to say anything on yours?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I do think that things are changing around here, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but they're changing nonetheless. And I do think that should be put into consideration. Be talking about changing the ordinance, correct? Building code ordinance, which would actually allow this deck to be built without the handrails currently. So I don't know, I think. Yeah, what's the deck drawn at?
30.
No, it's like.
Oh, it is at 18.
Yeah.
I digress there.
Yeah.
I apologize.
No, you're good. So I just, I think all things to be considered. I think that's all I have to say.
Mr. Dooley, do you have anything to say?
No, I mean, we were looking at adding this deck because we have no outside seating at the house and, really where it's tucked in. I mean, there's not a whole lot of people who will see it. Our neighbor is very fine with it. neighbors all around the neighborhood are fine with it. So that's the reason, we thought we can build a cement patio or we can build a wood deck, and I can do the patio, but I can't do the deck. So, some people drive Chevy, some people drive Ford. So it's like, what's your preference? Ours is wood. So that's really where I come from on it.
Any discussion from the council?
Way I understand a variance, you don't have to meet all the criteria. You only got to meet part of the criteria, everything I read on it. That's why I disagree with saying you got to meet all 8 of the criteria or whatever. The way I understand everything I read about it, you only got to meet even one of the criteria. But
Yeah.
I think the biggest two that you gotta take into consideration is extraordinary circumstance and the hardship. Because we did have all the full transparency, all the other applications pretty much met 4 out of 8,
yeah.
the way they're written.
No.
And if cement's legal there for a deck,
For a patio, for a grade level patio
yeah, then why wouldn't a wooden deck be?
with no handrails.
Yeah.
He can build.
Hopefully in the future, that is something that gets, because I agree, like, I don't disagree, but the way it's that growing pains thing that we're in right now, and
Trying to change, we're trying to look at it. We're trying to work on things that'll make things right,
Yeah.
more user friendly and, and from what I talked to the planning commission and Corey and Emery, that the planning commission worked hard on this. They went through it detail by detail. So my feelings are we need to support the planning commission. That's what they volunteer to do.
and you don't all have to agree, I mean, that's why there's 4, depending on how things go, 5 of you. So I'm not taking it personally. It's, this is why.
Changes that are being made in the future, though, will streamline these processes, correct?
Well, it'll eliminate them and allow these more things for more people.
So just because this doesn't meet the criteria now, does not mean that it won't meet the criteria in the.
Or something similar, maybe not, well, without the handrail, the way the amendments are written right now, you'd be able, in your side yard or backyard, you'd be able to build this with no handrails 18 inches. And maybe that goes higher depending on how the public hearings go in the future. But the idea is to allow more people in their side yards and their rear yards more latitude, instead of having to have one little building tucked in the back corner where you pull in from your alley and then you can do nothing else. Like we know we have no cookie cutter community. We want to open things up, but we want to do it through the right channels to where we don't have person A getting a variance for this and then person B getting a variance for that. Want everybody to have the same opportunity, because obviously historically we have a lot of opportunities that nobody has argued with. They've been given out through variances. So and then we don't have to worry about why we handed one out. It's just allowed.
That's the building permit, correct?
Yeah, just get a building permit and because right now you really can't do a lot. If you really look at the black and whites of that code, and it hasn't been messed with in years, and a lot of those haven't been altered since the 80s.
And we adopted them from another town.
Right. I think everyone and their dog in 1978, when that planning came out nationwide, I think firms were just.
Well, and that's why I would like to continue with what the planning commission done. And as we move forward, we're changing things to make it better.
More user friendly.
And
this has been, having all of these applications is frustrating and abrasive as this process has been good. We have seen it from all different angles. We've seen what people, some from over here, some from over there.
Yeah.
And I think it's really opened up.
And what negative effect does him building it out of wood have?
Right now?
Yeah, if we okayed it for him to build it now.
Well, the problem right now is it's applicated with handrails and we can't negotiate with them. We can't be like, hey,
it would be,
take the handrails down and you can build it. We've got to determine.
So what is the ordinance then dealing with the handrails, just for clarify?
Well, if we make the change, right now, it's just part of the deck's part of the structure. So it's got to meet the setbacks. But what we're thinking moving forward is having, because you could.
An 18-inch handrail is not high enough.
No, what I'm saying is 18-inch deck or with no handrails, because you could put a mound of dirt there and put a patio there and be just as high. I mean, hell, you can build a deck 30 inches tall with no handrails by the building code. So maybe that even goes up. But I'm not sure. That's just kind of what I figured. You could scramble over 18 inches pretty easy. So that's where we started. Maybe it goes up to 20 inches.
Any additional discussion? Floor is open. It's fixing to close. Discussion? We have a motion on the table to deny this variance with a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Opposed?
Nay.
What?
Nay.
Okay. We have a tie vote. I'll vote yes. We will deny the variance at this time. Okay, Henry?
Okay, sign project update. So we put that whole scope together. You guys approved it and started looking for funding. We've actually found that Discover Carbon County, we can split our project up into multiple applications. So we are going to do that. And we had the one that we had put in for the 25K. We're going to rescind that, split it up and try and basically double the ask for it. We'll do the gateway signs on one and all the other pedestrian and traffic stuff on other, and try to get as much funding as we can. But that's what we were basically told by them is, hey, you guys can put these on multiple applications. When the person handing out the money is suggesting something like that, I think we'll go ahead and work with it, try to get something improved there. A TAP grant update. We're design plans for the path up from the high school down to the rec center. Like I stated earlier, we went over that with YDOT. They thought it was a great project. We're approaching that 90% design here by the end of the week. They requested that we have the application, rough draft, so to speak, and the 90% design plans in prior to the application due date of July 1st. So they can review them and give us our comments back. So we're looking to hit that window here and we can get that
We're gonna make her
shoved out to them so we can get feedback back before we actually submit at the end of the month. So I think that's going pretty well. Doing everything that they're asking. We're checking all the boxes they throw in front of us. I think it's a really good opportunity for us to capitalize on that. We kind of covered some of 17 in the ordinance update. We will have a public hearing at the next planning meeting on July 8th at 5:30 concerning setbacks, accessory buildings. Just some clarifying language, like where the building setback line is. We talked about starting to go through Title 18, and it's a big set of codes. So we kind of discussed, let's start somewhere that is going to have an actual effect, like immediately. And so we picked this accessory buildings and the setbacks. There's a definition we're going to amend in there, which kind of speak to the decks and things like that. And then placement of the accessory buildings, it opens up that quite a bit. I think that'll, it'll allow people to do more with what they've got, quite a bit more. But it's nothing really super out of the ordinary. You look around, there's a lot of communities that have something pretty similar. I talking to some guys in Cheyenne, they've gone through this. It's kind of a nationwide deal. Everybody adopted a code that got printed in the 70s, and then people have kind of changed it as they've gone. I think this fits us. It's not quite as, I've seen people who have, 20-foot setback right up no matter what. It's not quite that far, but it's a big improvement from where we're at.
In this, we're gonna have something about decks and patios.
Yeah, on the building setback line definition.
Right, okay.
And it alters it a little bit depending on whether it's your side yard, backyard, or out in the front. We did try to, even though we're allowing a little bit of accessory buildings, closer and opening that up, we still want to kind of got to draw the line somewhere. And so
Didn't you say you were looking at talking about some percentage for the older homes built?
Yeah.
At 1975.
And that's something too, who kicked around is allowing a reduction, like a setback reduction for homes that are built prior to like 1980, do like a 10% reduction just to give them, things that were built before this was slapped into place a little bit more.
That aren't really compliant now. So. There's a lot of good things in there, fellas. I've read through it over the weekend and
And if you don't want a red line version, you just want one, what it would be when it's done, because there is a lot of red line in there. I can get you one. Email me, put it in your box. And yeah, everybody please come in July. We'll advertise it on Facebook. It's going in the paper, but this is a good opportunity for us to, we want to, the more we can do now.
hopefully we'll get the word out. We'll get some contractors here with some input.
Be a good meeting to attend, yeah.
I think it's a great idea. And, to stick up for Emery on some of this stuff too, well, not really sticking up for him, but to say his back is when somebody brings a building permit in here and, it's so confusing on how we had to do it. I mean, you can't look in one spot to get a building permit. Looking about 15. I mean, we have narrowed some of that down.
Yeah.
Title 17, but Jesus.
But nothing's ever gonna be perfect. Like, we're gonna make these changes and it's gonna be, but I think too, if somebody does, like, if this really doesn't work, I think it might help to, determine that extraordinary circumstance thing a little bit better too.
And then if a variance does arise, then you'll have a really good,
Well, hopefully.
we don't have them.
Well, and one of the things that I've noticed too is looking at the town's website and trying to find stuff on the town's website is a nightmare.
See, I don't have no problem, but trying to find, you gotta go to the ordinance in the municipal.
But when you look at like zone regulations and
It's a
stuff,
lot of clicking.
it's hard
There's
to
a lot of clicking.
navigate to find it.
Yeah, no, I got you.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll look forward to your public hearing. Okay. Anything else, my friend?
I was just getting on the Water and Sewer Joint Powers Board, the last meeting, we kind of talked more about the billing things, and I think we're gonna streamline some of that stuff starting, July 1. I'll get with Karina and we'll get a little bit better plan on that, and then they went over their year end, they're putting their budget in for the next year as far as them as a board. That's kind of what the meeting was spent about. And then we do have the West Bench projects currently advertising, the bathrooms currently advertising. So if you guys know anybody interested.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Emery.
Thanks. We'll move on to the Recreation Commission.
I don't have anything new to report. I was not at the last meeting, and nobody reached out with anything that needed to be brought to the
Can
council.
you add to it?
Yeah, I'll add to it. So, we had a couple people.
Thank you.
We had a couple people from the public, one of them being Cindy Carnes, inquired again about fixing the court at Betts Island. Spoke with Emily about it, and it's just not gonna be on the list of things to do this year.
Okay.
Cost, and I mean, those guys are super busy as it is. The other thing was Teal Kafad came in and inquired about the wood chips at both Betts Island and Kathy Glood Park. She did provide pictures, and it's pretty barren at both places. I also did talk with Emery about it. And I told Teal that it won't be on the list of things to do this year. And she's gonna also look into writing the Rec 2 grant for it next year, the one that was due in February. And she's like willing to help and do whatever it needs to do to make it happen, because she has a 3-year-old daughter.
So that's on the radar.
Yes.
I would like to get a border, like one of the plastic borders put up around maybe the playground.
Keep it from blowing away.
Yeah, before we put it.
So you're looking at chips or sand? She said chips.
Well, there was wood chips existing there, but pretty much it's all blown out. And I let her know that it's something that's gonna be addressed. I just didn't have a date for her when it would be addressed.
Not allowed to have sand anymore, are you?
Did you know of something?
All playgrounds did away with sand and went to wood chips for safety. I didn't know whether it was yeah.
No, a lot of them.
Rubber. Yeah.
I got lots of tires you can. Set up and
All them little wire pieces in
A
here.
little bigger, but
Now, those,
same effect.
airport board looked at some of those rubber.
They did that at the elementary school a couple years ago too.
We can move forward a little bit, discuss some of this. If we move forward, you know.
Yeah, and she's totally appreciative that we're talking about it on it.
Okay, but definitely, I agree with Emery, you need a border around there first, or you're not gonna hold nothing.
Well, it just keeps us up like when we're weed eating, they're not getting flung out into there.
In the grass.
And no sand, because they just turn into big kitty litter boxes. That's, yeah, it is.
Always fun.
Okay. Thanks, Carter, for the update. Okay, we'll move on to the Saratoga Airport Advisory Board. What they did is they brought us in some bills. You can read down through them. It's from Wyoming Log and Timber, and it's the stuff that they've ordered and got in, that we got invoices for. Got a flagpole in the amount of $4,740.70. Nearly Natural LLC estimate, which is for sure. And remember that one.
Must be fake grass.
It looks like,
Is that the AstroTurf?
those look like a couple trees and bushes, trees and.
Okay, well, I know they're bringing in fake trees, fake bushes. So nothing has to be watered. And then King Snow Landscaping is doing all the work. They've started on it. They're moving right along. Hauling up rocks and stuff. And then I think the High Country Construction was ordering some black rock. And I told them I needed a breakdown on that. They're ordering some black rock out of Riverton. It's a certain color, and that's the delivered price. So did Blake get a breakdown in on that? You want to come on up? Sure.
An email today, so it's out of Lander, it's a High Country Construction, we ordered some rock, they brought in, we ordered, I think, 3 loads of it, they brought in 1 load, it was the wrong size. And so Arlen, told him to not bring any more, however, Blake, put 2 of the loads, buckets along the, eastern side. And it looks pretty good. So they might just keep them and just put crushed rock underneath and keep the rock as this kind of a color that Arlen likes. It's green, black rock. I don't know.
They were
All exterior landscapers now out there on the airport board. So the other thing was Arlen's now looking into a different mulch. I don't know anything about rubber mulch. Anybody know anything about how that withstands the wind and the heat up here? All they're looking for are things that we don't have to water, that are sustainable, that kind of thing up there. So that's the latest that I got this afternoon, was that they brought in the wrong size rock, but it kind of looks good, so they might pour more. So Karina has all the breakdown of all, I think those flagpoles were
So the total.
there were 2
the total of
flagpoles
These items are 27,300.
at 2.
Thinking 4 sounded a little high.
Yeah, it's 2. I asked the same question. I'm like, wait, what? So yeah, it's 2. So we're all just about landscaping up there right now. Like I said, they're all exterior landscapers right now on the airport board. And we're trying to get it all looking good for the July dedication for the Glades for the Shively Field and the monument.
So better hurry.
Right. There's progress being made up there, so.
Well, Bill Blake brought in total 27,375, correct?
One bill is the estimate, the beginning, the first, he's brought in an estimate for 2 separate bills. So
invoice number 2025-21. Invoice is 19,523. And then the other invoice is 2025-22, and that is for 19,400.
38,900.
Those two invoices. And then the other, the flagpole, the natural, and the King Snow are separate.
I do know that they're coming in on Friday, and that is the King's Landscape from Laramie to do the final measurements for the artificial turf.
Okay.
He's just, the Wyoming log and timber is one of the portion of us to pay for the.
Well, they've done quite a bit of work up there.
Yes.
So, and they want how much of their portion? I can't find that invoice.
It's on page 62. 63.
So of this, these two invoices total the 38,923. What was the total?
It was 47,000. And one invoice, and the other invoice was 27,000. Change, and so if these invoices are a portion of.
Roughly 70 grand, so this is a little over half.
What was the original bid on the person that backed out? You remember what that was?
Well, that
I
was,
think it was 40 something, yeah.
yeah, that was 40, and that was just on one portion that they're doing. That didn't account for some of the other stuff. So.
Has he done 50% of the work?
I would say close. Close. I mean, you know, they've dug out, I mean, they're ready. I think they're,
It's up there. Yeah, I think they brought up all that rock that Thad was gonna.
I would say they've done pretty close to 50% of their work. You know, the sign will come in and set, they got the concrete poured for that with the rebar up and everything. They just gotta, a lot of things have gotta start getting set now. They did all their prep work but I would say after driving by and looking at it and talking with Arlen and the airport board, I would say they've done 50% of their work. So. Can I get that total one more time? Jen,
38,923.
one more time.
38,923.
Okay, do I have a motion to go ahead and pay the $38,923 to Wyoming Log and Timber?
I'd make the motion to go ahead and pay this. Well,
Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now, is this, all these listed out here, all additional?
Flagpole, the nearly natural.
Separate invoice.
Okay.
To a different company, so that will need an approval. Also, the nearly natural is a separate invoice. And the estimate for the King Snow.
You know, I have a tough time paying that estimate.
We're not gonna pay that until I receive an invoice.
Yeah, we don't have an invoice on that. And the King landscape quote, I think we approved for them that dollar
It's a
amount.
different amount. They raised it. It was 27,000.
So now we have a different quote on it.
It was differently. For, I believe. It's the price.
Okay. Then, do I have a motion to go ahead and approve 19, the flagpole company invoice of $4,744.70?
I'll make the motion to pay the 47,
Do I
44.70.
do I have a second
I'll second it.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We got an estimate here. We're gonna skip over.
If they get me an invoice, then is that exact amount? Am I okay to pay that, or would you rather wait until the council meeting to see that?
I would just as soon do it out of this budget if we can. We're gonna have to amend their budget, their portion of the budget.
If it's that amount. Pay it.
So can you take that back? We need an invoice. I think we're gonna have two, and we got King's. Well, that's a quote to do all their work. That'll have to come out of next year's budget. The King Snow landscape quote.
Unless they get her done.
Huh?
Unless they get her done in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
They're supposed to be here Friday with final measurements.
We need
I
to
don't know,
approve
but
the estimate.
that,
well, it's a quote to do the work and an estimate to do it. I mean, the council can give us approval to go ahead and pay it if it comes in before. Give them till the 29th. Well, wait a minute, look at a calendar.
Next council meeting is
July 1st.
July 1st.
And if they get that in, we can approve it under last year's budget. So,
by July 1st,
or sooner.
sooner.
Yeah.
Well, right, but I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so she's got time to prepare everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Invoice, yeah.
and then now we're down to the rock, and you said they've already got some of the rock?
Yes, it says, they received a load rock from the High Country Construction. They were to bring 3 loads, and so he told them not to bring any more until we decided, but they brought one of the 3 that
Okay,
they were supposed to. And
So-
so they're deciding right now whether it will look good, but it looks pretty good.
we can't do anything with that one until we get an invoice either,
Right.
so.
Okay. Right there.
Okay,
Yep.
Well, this
And they've all that.
is an invoice. The High Country is an invoice.
One load of rock.
how much is one load?
On there.
It says quantity 70, unit price 35, so I don't know if that's probably.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not gonna pay the whole thing because you guys may change your mind,
right. Yeah,
so, yeah. So, yeah,
just pay that one and then, and
if they'll break that invoice down, we'll pay it,
break
but,
it down. Okay.
yeah,
All right.
okay?
All right, so what I have is you need an invoice, not an estimate from Nearly Natural. You need King Snow Landscape to have their invoice in before the end of the month. And then you need High Country to break down their invoice to what they've delivered. Yeah. Good, okay. Andy?
Thank you.
Thanks,
Anything else for me?
Ron.
Yeah, thank you.
What's this one we can't hardly read?
Lakes, Wyoming log. We brought in.
With the first go around, see, I haven't seen that, I hadn't seen these others. Okay. Okay. Last is South Central Wyoming Medical Service Board, and their next meeting is July 21st, 2025 at 6 p.m. in encampment. Is there any new business to be brought before the town? Okay. No executive session. One more call, further business. Any further business? I have a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
No second.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.